I was diagnosed with depression.
I was diagnosed with bipolar manic depression.
Through my mother. My mother suffered from depression. She was suicidal, attempted suicide many times, through my 4th and 10th grade years of high school.
I felt relieved that there was a name for the despair I had been feeling.
Well, I wasn't sleeping properly. I had trouble with racing thoughts. And I didn't know about the disease originally, but when I found out these are the symptoms, I felt a little confused because I've never heard of the disease before, a little bit fearful that my life was going to change. But I felt I was in good hands. I had a good doctor.
When in 4th grade, 3 days before Christmas on December 22nd, I was downstairs and I was watching The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the cartoon version. And I still remember this, it's clear as to this day. I was downstairs watching with my sister, and my dad was saying my mother's name over and over again, and I just ignored it, and parents fight, whatever. And the next thing I know, paramedics are coming in my house. And I got to see 3 days or 2 days before Christmas, whatever it was, my mother with her shirt open, with all kinds of like paramedic heart stuff on her, doing all kinds of medical equipment, people telling me to get out of the way, all the equipment on the ground, bagging her up, taking her to, I believe, Vassar Brothers Hospital. I got to spend Christmas Day saying hello to my mother, who had tubes coming out of her mouth, heart monitors and whatnot, and then from there she was institutionalized for a while. And then the one that hurt the most was when I was in 10th grade. I came home from school, and I'd always walk up the stairs. And my mother would usually be downstairs. I'd get a drink and we'd watch Jeopardy. And I walked upstairs, and my mother wasn't watching TV, and my father's car was there because that was really odd. And I saw a knife on the table and a note. And next thing I know, my father's coming out of the bedroom, and he said that your mother cut her wrists. Well, in the past, it was always with drugs. She cut her wrists, and she was being taken to Four Winds the next day. And, like, there are certain triggers for me to remember things. Like, one is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and the other one is a song called Broken Wings by Mr. Mister, which came out that time period. It was 1980. It was the spring of 1986, my sophomore year of high school. And I just remember just being so angry with her. And just saying, this isn't fair to me. This isn't fair to this family.
Take these broken wings and learn to fly again.
And what I think really pushed me over the edge was some problems I was having at work with administrators that were treating me unfairly. And so in a way, I have to be grateful because they pushed me over the edge and right into the waiting arms of a therapist and a pharmacist. It changed my life for the better because with the diagnosis came the talk therapy and the medication that eased my symptoms.
My father brought us to a child psychiatrist or psychologist. Her name was Dr. Chitwood. I remember that because, being really mature, Dr. Chitwood, but it was obviously Dr. Chitwood. We went a couple times, but being raised never to show your emotions, I just sat on the couch and just answered her questions with yes or no's. Let's see, I didn't talk too much about it. You just don't talk about those things. You just keep them to yourself. It was the 70s, it was the 80s. You just didn't talk about your feelings, and you just moved on.
Well, I try to avoid too much stress and I take my medicine daily. I never forget, and I see a doctor regularly and a therapist. I think there's a lot better care now than there used to be, and more awareness. I feel that people just don't understand, so they're fearful of what they don't understand about depression or manic depression.
And we couldn't tell anyone. That was the hardest thing, is you couldn't let the neighbors know. And you guys are finding out more than most of my best friends and even family know right now. Absolutely, it's made me stronger. When you're in fifth grade and you sit there, watch your mother basically overdosing on drugs, and then you're told to wait for the ambulance. Then if the ambulance picks you up, your father's just like, all right, get on the bus, go to school. You know, it was just, okay, I'm going to school now. One of the positive things is sometimes I do share this with students who I find out whose parents have attempted or committed suicide. And I always preface this on, not many people know what I'm telling you. Any student in school is going through this. They have someone that can somewhat empathize and help them through what this is going through. And I've helped kids like that, so I guess I turned it into a good thing as best I could.
Well, sometimes it was hard on my children if I had to be hospitalized. They had to be cared for by somebody else, a family member. So I wasn't always there for them.
Beforehand, when I would sink into that black feeling, I wasn't interacting with them the way I should have been, and certainly I wasn't appreciating them the way I should have been. And when I found myself staying up in my room rather than wanting to go downstairs to be with my children on special occasions, such as Christmas or birthdays. I definitely think there's a stigma attached to mental illness, because when I would bring it up to friends, their jaws would sometimes drop open depending upon the context in which I was talking about it. I think there was certain sympathy for me. It's not hard to talk about. I don't feel sensitive about it, but it's just hard for them to conceptualize what that kind of sadness feels like.
You look at the hierarchy of needs, and the first one is like safety, and when you don't, when you never feel like, when you always feel and afraid if someone's going to abandon you, you always push people away. So, like, I've never been afraid when someone says I'm leaving. Okay, bye. I'm always waiting for that person to either disappoint me or to run out on me.
I'd like them to know that it's nothing to be afraid of, and that it's very treatable. Most mental illnesses are very treatable, and that they should be supportive of friends and family who have mental illness.
I'm no longer afraid it's going to return, because I know, I believe those feelings come back the way they do for most people who aren't diagnosed, as part of the cyclical nature of human emotions. And I know they'll go away.
I hope more people are understanding of mental illness, and that they become more informed and educated.
There's always hope.
Summer has come and passed. The innocent can never last. Wake me up when September ends. Like my father's come to pass, 7 years has gone so fast. Wake me up when